It's the first full week of the month, and that means it's time for a rundown of every single thing I read in May, whether it was good or bad. Hey everyone, it's Ray and welcome back to my little bookish corner of the world where I talk about everything books, including stuff I didn't like. And this month there is a fair bit of that. As I actually managed to read through, and I'm quite happy to say this, I read 11 books last month. And I wasn't expecting to be able to get through that many, especially when a couple of the books I tackled were rather chunky, whether that was paperback or hardback. So let's get down to it. I'm going to be really balanced. I'm not going to do these in any particular order. So I might well talk about a favourite next to something I really didn't enjoy. And I might talk about something I really didn't enjoy next to another book I didn't enjoy, which, looking through my pile, may well end up being the case. So let's get on with the first book, which actually was the last book I read in May, and that was The Dragon's Promise by Elizabeth Lim. It's the sequel to Six Crimson Cranes and starts where that book finishes. Now, I'm not sure if I've talked about Six Crimson Cranes on here. However, it was a book I really enjoyed and I was looking forward to getting stuck into this one. In fact, I purchased this as I was reading Six Crimson Cranes, though I wasn't sure if I was going to get to it as soon as I finished it, and I didn't, as I started reading it probably close to the very end of the month when I was on holiday. This is the second story in the Shiori sequence, so we find out more about what happens when Shiori enters the dragon's realm with the broken dragon's pearl, and then determines that no, she is not going to give it to the Dragon King as she sort of implied she would. This story is a really good blend of mythology and fantasy, and I am greatly looking forward to the third book in the series, which isn't really the third book. It's the prequel, and it's the story of Shiori's stepmother. And for the moment, the title has completely left my brain. Shocker. I'm going to blame that on my age. The next book was one that I've been wanting to read for a while, and that was Dead and Scone by Suk Panu. Now, I really enjoy listening to radio plays on the BBC, and I also enjoyed the series of Mrs. Sidhu Investigates, which was on Acorn TV last year, or was it? It might have been the beginning of this year in the UK. And it was, Mrs. Sidhu is an intriguing little woman. She's not quite accepted in her own community, but she's also viewed as something of an oddity by those outside it, and she investigates murders. And I like books like this, which is why I have an entire shelf of them behind me. This is the first book in the series, though there has been a 4-episode TV show, and there has also been, I believe, an 8-episode radio series. And this was the first book. I waited until it came out in paperback because I don't have very many hardbacks on that particular shelf and I didn't want to start. But if this is anything to go by, I definitely would love to read the second one, though at the moment I'm not sure when that's going to come out. So that was Dead and Scone by Suk Panu. And if you love cozy mysteries, you will love that. The next one was Abby Jimenez, Just for the Summer, which was actually my first read of May. I read it over the bank holiday weekend we had over here. And this is the story of Emma and Justin. Both of them are kind of like, there's a film with Jessica Alba, Good Luck Chuck, I believe, and it is very similar to that in its style. Justin and Emma both have this kind of curse, and they meet because Justin posts on Reddit, anybody else have this problem? If anybody wants to date me, I can guarantee when we finish our relationship, you will meet the man of your dreams. And Emma, it appears, has exactly the same problem. So it talks about it's going to just be a fling. They meet, and Emma has a problem with commitment due to issues in her childhood, whereas Justin is has taken charge of his family because his mother is going to prison, and he's got three younger siblings. And Emma, because she doesn't want commitment, is kind of like, yeah, I don't think I want that. It covers their love story in a way, and it wasn't a bad read. I wouldn't say it was the worst read by any stretch of the imagination that I picked up this month. It was entertaining as a rom-com should be, and of course it had the cliched third act twist, which wasn't really a twist, but anyway, it was entertaining enough. So I will pick up another by Abby Jimenez, though I'm not sure quite when. But as I said, it wasn't by any stretch of the imagination the worst book I read this month. Next one I read is actually Catherine Newman's Sandwich. I had heard so many of my friends talking about this and her previous book that I knew as soon as it came up for a book tour, I was very interested in reading it for myself. It comes out this month, and it is... The cover makes it look very, very simple, but it is a story of complex familial relationships. It blends the past with the present and the future. But it's not time travel. It is all about the complexities of a family and their inner workings, seen through the eyes of Rocky, the matriarch. It's a lovely story, and there were moments where I cried, but I'm not going to go into it because A, it hasn't come out yet, and B, I don't do spoilers. But I would 100% recommend it if you like something that isn't simple and you like depth to your characters, because this definitely provides that, and that is Sandwich. This was one of the better reads of the month. The next book I read was not for me. It was one of my least favourite, but not quite my least favourite book of the month, and that is Cross the Line by Simone Sultani. This is a Formula One romance. It's based in the world, obviously, of Formula One racing. The main character, Desi, is she is a PR person, a media PR exec, and she goes to work in Formula One to help one of her brother's childhood friends sort out his reputation because he really mucked it up with his previous PR. And it follows their love story, which I've got no issue with. I like a love story, but I really didn't like these two characters. I found them self-absorbed, annoying, kind of immature, and therefore it just wasn't one that ticked all my boxes. I know that there will be lots of people out there going, Formula One romance, guide me to it straight away. And I know that there are a number of this type of novel coming out, and also that sport romances are the thing at the moment. This just wasn't it for me. Next book was a surprise, one that actually surprised me in enjoyment, and that was Voyage of the Damned by Frances White. It was hilarious. Possibly, actually, I had a brief conversation with the author over on X, formerly known as Twitter. I don't think I'm ever going to get out of the habit of calling it Twitter. Anyway, we had a brief conversation because when I picked this up and I started reading, I was laughing quite a lot, and I was told that that's not a bad thing. So I enjoyed this. It is a fantasy science fiction type novel, and it's all about a group of characters who are essentially stuck on a ship in the middle of a voyage to visit the place where their powers originated, and along the way a large number of them get murdered, and it's down to this character who is not exactly the most popular, and also one who has is lying to all of the other characters because he hasn't gained his power. That is revealed in the beginning. It is not a spoiler. And it is down to him to solve the murders despite being kind of reluctant to do so. However, it is very entertaining, and I did enjoy it a considerable amount, so I would recommend this. And that is Voyage of the Damned, and this is the Waterstone special edition, and the sprayed edges are very, very pretty, and I do love the texture of the cover, but that's just me. The pile's going to get a little bit too big to go where it needs to go, especially with the addition of the next book. I've already spoken about my feelings regarding Babel by R.F. Kuang. I did that on my June 1-star reviews, pick my books for June. This was one of my 1-star May picks, not my 1-star review, somebody else's, and I didn't enjoy it at all. I'm really sorry to anybody who did. I can't quite explain what I didn't like about the book. I just didn't like it. It wasn't for me. I like Kwang's writing. I have got the Poppy Wars and the other two on my shelf, and I enjoyed, if you can say enjoyed, about Yellowface. I found it was a very insightful and intelligent novel, but Babel, it just didn't sit with me. I didn't enjoy it, and there were quite a number of times where I did consider putting it down and not picking it up. But if you want to find out more about what I thought about this, I will post the link to the other review above and in the notes. Okay, the next book is Can't Spell Treason Without T by Rebecca Thorne. This was a brand new release. I know it was hugely anticipated. In fact, I believe I ordered my copy either at the very beginning of this year or the very end of last. I was intrigued by the idea of it being a cozy fantasy, very along the lines of Legends and Lattes and Bookshops and Bone Dust, which I have up the top. And there are dragons in it, there's a magical system in it, and it's about a bookshop, which, I mean, seriously, it's a bookshop. You can't be any more written for me if you tried. It's not a bad book. I'm looking forward to the sequel. I believe these were originally self-published, and they were picked up by Tor in the UK. And this is a Waterstone special edition. It is very, very pretty. It is incredibly pretty, and there's a stunning map in here as well. However, there were certain things about it that I think are a little misleading. The dragons along here, they aren't really in it that much. The bookshop plays a big part in the book, in the book, and the two main characters, Chianthe and Raina, are strong, enlightened, determined women, and I love that in a book. Who doesn't? Yeah, I just wish there had been more dragons, or it had been clearer that dragons weren't really a big part of the story. That they kind of are, but they're not, and I don't want to give anything away. However, if you do like cozy fantasy, then this is definitely a book I would recommend you pick up. It's a very quick read. I think it took me an afternoon, and it is only I'm having a look now how many pages it is. It is only 336 pages in the UK version, so it won't take you too long, and it is quite fun. And as I said, the main characters are intriguing. Okay, now we are getting down to crunch time. This is books 9, 10 and 11, and yeah, okay, let's go. I've already mentioned there are a few on the list that I've already didn't like, but now we really are hitting the big time. The Ministry of Time by Callie-Anne Bradley. I did a huge extended podcast review of, which I will link below. However, I think I can summarize it in a few words. Weak writing, pointless plot, didn't really go anywhere, and had a lot of potential. I think my biggest gripe with the book is the fact that all of the other characters in this book are fictional. They didn't exist at any point in any time. However, the main love interest, Commander Graham Gore, was a real person. And in the back of the book, the author even goes so far as to provide us with a daguerreotype, or a photograph, of the main character. And it's like, Why? I know that this was hugely anticipated. I also know that there was slight controversy with a number of people accusing the author of plagiarism because there is El Ministerio del Tiempo in Spain on Spanish television. There was a TV series. They are not the same. I have watched parts of the TV show and I have read this book from cover to cover. They are not the same. No author owns the concept of time travel. No writer owns the concept of time travel. And that's all I will say about that. The BBC has already purchased the rights to it and are going to be making this into a TV show with A24. And hopefully they will pick up the few plot points that had great potential and not stress too much the relationship between the nameless central protagonist and Commander Graham Gore. That's another thing. The central character had no name, which felt a little bit odd to me. I know that in the book Rebecca, the central protagonist does not have a name, but she does have a title and a surname. So yeah, I'm really sorry I didn't enjoy this. This has already been placed on my unhaul shelf, and I will be taking it to my local charity shop at the weekend just to ensure that somebody else picks it up. And I'm sure that somebody else will really enjoy it. It just wasn't for me, and I was disappointed. What more can I say? It just wasn't a fantastic book. The next book was another on my 3 books picked by 1-star reviews, and that was the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I'm not going to go into great depth on my review of this one because I have got a review with my Babel views, and it's another one that is going to be going on the unhaul shelf. It was on my bookcase for well over a year, and I am very sad to be parting with it because it is actually a really beautiful book. Not the story, but the actual book itself. It's got a lovely cover on it. The actual dust jacket is quite attractive, but that's no reason to keep it on my bookcase, so I'm not going to. So that's the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. And if you watched my 3 books I picked for May, you will know what's coming up and you will know what I thought of it. And that was Every Exquisite Thing by Laura Stephen. It was a book, and only barely. I am very, very apologetic to Laura Stephen, but this book it read in a way like fan fiction that was posted on fanfiction.net. And that's not an insult. I have read in the past some very good fan fiction on fanfiction.net. The actual review that I picked this book from was, this book 100% reads like a teenager's first stab at Wattpad fanfiction. And sadly, they weren't wrong. Anyway, those are my 11 books for May. I'd say my top book for the month was likely A Dragon's Promise, closely followed by Sandwich. And my bottom books for the month were Every Exquisite Thing and The Ministry of Time. What did you think of these? Have you read any of these books? What did you think about them? I really would love to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. And don't forget to click that notification bell. I will see you again next week. And it's been great talking to you. Bye.